I just feel like there's not enough time in the day sometimes. Last night I went to bed like around 9:30, which makes me sound like a fucking grandpa, but that's late for me. And because I wake up at 3, and since I delayed my bedtime, I usually go to bed around like 8:30ish by an hour. I actually slept in an hour today because I didn't want to sacrifice an hour's sleep, and then that set me back. This morning I was home when my wife was up, and she plays the violin at like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And generally, I'm getting out of the house by then, so I'm not really there. So, doing my morning routine with her playing the violin was like very distracting. And I love her too much to say anything. And it's not that she's bad at playing the violin, but it's like that's a very loud instrument to be playing at 4 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, it's a tough one. So, got my day started a little bit offset. And going back to my original point is sometimes I just feel like there isn't enough time in the day. You know, it's like I get off work and I'm heading home and I have other ventures that I pursue outside of here, this included. And I just don't feel like I have enough time sometimes. I feel like I'm rushing everything, and then I'm making us dinner because she gets off a little bit later than us. And I'm the cook in the house because if she had to cook something for us, it'd be game over. Anyway, so getting home, fucking rushing to get all this stuff uploaded. So it could be, I could stick on that daily schedule, and then I have some other things that I had to take care of a little bit more personally for myself in the evening. And it just feels like by the time like I have a moment to breathe, it's like I got to go to bed. And it's not that I feel like I have to. I'm actually pretty excited to because I like to start my day. I enjoy my morning routine, so there isn't excitation to go to sleep. But I just don't feel like sometimes there's enough time in the day. And maybe I just need to get more efficient. Maybe that's an excuse. I don't know. But I am juggling a lot of different things right now. And I prefer that because I'd rather be busy than bored. Because let me tell you, most psychiatric illness stems from boredom. It doesn't stem from stress. So I don't dislike that. I just feel like I need a little bit more time. Maybe I just need a couple days off just to like, even though I just took the weekend off, but I was busy spending time with my wife. I feel like I just need a couple of days. I don't know, maybe you could relate. Sometimes it just feels like you can't get everything done. And then you start to question, did I get all the high return items done? Did I pull all the right levers? Did I put my attention in the right areas? You know, sometimes you'll have some questions. However, you just can do the best that you can. There's always more to do, and you can always judge your progress versus your expectations, and you can think that you should be further ahead than you are. However, you just have to keep chugging along and stay positive. So this by no means is any complaint. It's more so I wish I had more time to do these things because I enjoy them. And I encourage you to also have that perspective. You know, don't think you don't have enough time and you from a negative lens. Think about you need more time because you want to do more things that you want to do, not there's too many things in your day that you have to do that's eating up that time. So with that being said, let's start this workout. Today I have some chest. And generally speaking, you can tell when I am training certain body parts because I don't know if you've noticed how routine I am with things. I wear the same colors on the same days that I train certain body parts. And it just kind of fell into that. I don't know. And it's like, okay, I'm training chest today. I got the red shirt on. So that's how fucking routine I get. All right, let's get to the workout today. Going to start off with some dips, warm it up, and then see where the day takes me. We'll do a little bit of exploring based on availability, based on how I'm feeling, but we'll hit some incline movements today for sure. We'll do a fly variation. We'll kind of do all the basic staple movements, but maybe we'll explore a little bit. I don't know. I'm not really crunched on time. My first thing is at 9 o'clock today. I have a new hire starting that I'm excited about. So that'll be in about 3 hours here. And we got some time, so let's have some fun. Oh shit. My strength is trash this morning. That felt fucking super heavy. Dude, I've done fucking dips with like over 100 plus pounds added to my over 200 pound ass on this thing with smooth ease. But that first set was not feeling good, friends. I felt heavy. Maybe I'll wake up a little bit, who knows. But strength is feeling a little bit off today. We'll see. All right, one more set here. Oh, yeah, like I was saying, that felt a little bit harder than normal. And it could be my sleep, it could be my energy levels. I know it's definitely probably not my nutrition. I've been back on track as of yesterday. Unless I'm feeling a drop off from the calorie difference. Because the weekend I had a fuckload of calories. And then come yesterday, I didn't have that much. I also trained pretty fucking hard for that back. So maybe playing a role, or maybe it's that residual digestive issue. It's crazy how long things can linger inside the body when you do things. And I'm making the assumption this has to probably do with that diet. Probably a combination of factors, like in business, you know? It's never really just one thing. It's usually a combination of elements. And it's up to you to figure out what those elements are through awareness and a ruthless objective identification. And with this, I think it has to do with my sleep, so I definitely need to get more sleep. Probably has a little bit of something to do with the food, which is a rare occasion and not something that I want to repeat at scale. So, yeah, let's get moving as the body wakes up a little bit. You know, so if you're dealing with these situations too, if you're coming in here in the mornings and you're feeling a little bit off, just keep going through the motions. Wait till the body catches up and wakes up a little bit. Wait till the caffeine hits you. And just keep pushing through, going through those motions. So let's go ahead and hit the next thing. I think I'm going to do a high profile incline with a neutral grip. Now that is a tricky variation of an incline press, and I don't recommend that you start to do that until you've mastered more of a traditional grip, because there can be a lot of shoulder and tricep utilization in that if you don't know how to control the engagement coming from your chest. And key is engagement. Now watch what I'm talking about. It's like if I take my hands right here, I don't move them. I can start to engage my chest without moving my arms, right? I try to squeeze it in, right? Most people, they just do this. And my chest isn't even moving, right? So it's like, what am I using there? Well, I'm using my shoulders, I'm using my triceps, right? So if you're wondering why your chest isn't growing, especially when it comes to any type of incline variation, it's because you're not engaging from your chest, right? You need to set up and stabilize your weight, and then you need to learn to initiate, right? I'm engaging through my chest when I squeeze. I'm not just moving my arms. Like if I just move my arms, I'm just extending my elbows. That's a tricep movement. And then this movement right here is more of a shoulder movement. Until I can actually learn to squeeze my chest through that whole range and then release the squeeze, you're not going to get that full chest engagement, right? That full chest growth. So if you're lacking development in your chest, and I was one of those people at one point, right? I could not engage my chest for shit. It just takes some time. So lighten up your weight. What you need to focus mainly on is a squeeze through the motion, right? Don't just extend your arms. Try to flex your chest underneath the weight, okay? Train a muscle, not a movement. You need to learn to squeeze it like it owes you some money, okay? So squeeze. All right, well, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, and that's going to be a decline machine press. Now, when we think about a pressing movement, it's similar to what I was talking about with the planes of pulling with the elbows. Essentially, wherever the elbows are aligned with is where you're going to target on your chest, okay? Now, there is no such thing as lower chest and upper chest, okay? There is your pec major and your pec minor, okay? The chest as a whole will become more developed as you train it as you train it effectively. Let's just say that. That's the simplest way to put it.
is, are you actually squeezing the entirety of the chest? Now, your shoulder frame will usually dictate where you can feel the most stress, whether that be in an incline movement, a decline movement, a flat movement. You need to be able to have some versatility and be able to maneuver based on what your body tells you, right? Your shoulder frame is not the same as my shoulder frame, therefore our pressing movements may not feel the same. So what I encourage you to do is to get a variation of the various forms of pressing away from the body, both on an incline basis, a flat, and a decline, and also on the machines, not just with free weights, to see where you feel the best tension distributed across the chest as a whole. Because what you're trying to do is not just target one tiny part of the chest, you're trying to squeeze the entire chest muscle. And you should do that through various forms of activation, right? Through an incline movement, through a flat, through a decline. So I'm gonna do a little bit of decline today. This machine is, you'll see people throwing 5 plates per side on this motherfucker. And you don't need to do that. Look, I have it 1 plate per side. And what I'm trying to do, same concept, is squeeze my chest. Not move my arms, squeeze my chest, okay? I almost tell people, like, even when you're pressing, think about more of a fly-based movement. Think about trying to engage and squeeze your chest. That's how you get full utilization. That's how you get full development. Okay, so let me bring this camera closer. Okay, so when I'm squeezing this movement, put my hands on there. Again, I want to line my elbows and my wrists. You never want to have a movement like this to where you're pushing, the handle's coming backwards and your elbow's here. Okay, that's more of a tricep movement. So you want to align the forearm with the machine perpendicular, so when you press, there's no bend in the forearm at all, or the wrist, it's a straight driver. That way you can squeeze across the chest with any form of pressing that you're doing. Okay, so I'm going to grab onto this. Real slow, squeeze my chest. And when you're doing any type of pressing movement, you're not just thinking about trying to push your arms straight out. You're also trying to think about pushing your back into the seat. That's going to facilitate your shoulder frame and your spine and get your abs a little bit more upright, so that way you're not slouching forward, and you're going to get a lot more chest engagement that way. So I'm pushing my back into the seat, making sure my forearms are perpendicular, and I'm just trying to squeeze my chest coming through. Now when I come down, I'm not dropping. I'm trying to open the squeeze. Open the squeeze. And I'm going to do a few reps of this until I feel like I could find that right line of tension. So I may need to maneuver my elbows a little bit, maneuver my hand grip, until it feels just right. Now, maybe I'll move the seat down a little bit. Let me try that. Okay, that feels a lot better. Again, don't be afraid to experiment. Just because you set the machine on one setting does not mean you can't change it. Go based on feeling, not look. That's good. I'll probably add 1 more plate on there to add a little bit of tension. But again, keep it simple. Slow, controlled squeezes. You're training muscles, not movements. If you want to grow, if you want to get bigger, then you need to learn to flex and squeeze. Six, 8, 9. Okay, so I'm doing a variation of fly on a free motion machine here. So again, the last few chest days, I've really changed the type of fly that I'm doing, and I may even do some dumbbell flies after this. I don't know. I'm going to see how I feel. But what I'm going to do on this free motion machine, what I like about this is the arms are adjustable vertically and also horizontally, so you can get some nice range and kind of fit your shoulder frame better than if it was on just a fixed traditional cable machine. So what I'm doing with this is finding that right angle that feels best for me. I'm going to do more of like a kind of a straight across fly here. I already did 1 set just to warm up and see how it feels. And I always encourage you, look, for your first set always, okay, your warm up is your first set, okay? You want to find the position and the angle that you feel best with in terms of engagement and overall squeeze, right? What I mean by that is start with a fucking lightweight, okay? Just get the movement down in the squeeze first, and then from there, that's when you can increase your weight loads. But don't just jump into a heavy weight. Like a lot of guys jump on that like flat bench that are like $150, and then they throw 135 pounds on the bar. They throw 45 on each side for their first set. And I'm like, Jesus, man. I'm like, first of all, why are you warming up with a weight heavier than my warm up? and you're half my weight, right? Because they're not doing it right. That's why, okay? Focus on the squeeze. It's like I said, you want longevity in the sport. You got a lot of guys that just lift heavy with their egos. You're gonna damage your body, man. The tendency for injury increases exponentially, like when you're just throwing around weights mindlessly. Partnership with the body. Don't force it to do something, partner with it, right? Teach it, right? If you're teaching your kids something, right? Or an employee or whatever, you're teaching somebody something new. You don't load shit on them so heavily to where you break them psychologically or physically, right? You're doing that with your body right now. It's like you're putting it in a failing position when you're not allowing it to learn the movement properly, to learn how to squeeze the muscle, because you're so focused on the weight and the reps that you're doing. So lighten it up, focus on the squeeze, feeling not finished. Let's hit a set here. Oh. Again, I'm not bringing my arms together. I'm squeezing my chest. My arms will move as long as I squeeze my chest. And I'm taking it nice and slow. Pinching my shoulder blades on the way back. That'll take it out of my biceps and out the front of my shoulders. And then, oof. Oh, fuck. Oh, that feels very, very good. Again, if you're getting any type of tension residually in the biceps, right, or the front of your shoulders, it's because of your angle, and it's because you're trying to push with your hands instead of pull with your elbows, right? If you're pushing with your hands, you're going to change your wrist deviation, you're going to flex your forearm, you're going to engage your bicep, and then it's going to pull at your shoulder, right? I try to keep my arms loose and relaxed. My hands are connected to the handles, and what I'm trying to do is bring my elbows together like this, not my hands, okay? If I'm doing my hands together, that's like internal external rotation. You wonder why you're feeling it in your shoulder because you're trying to crank it through like this. What you want to do instead is move from the elbows. The rest is rigid. I'm just trying to squeeze my chest into a nice fly movement, okay? Try that and let me know what you think. Okay, so I wanna show you from the back what I mean by squeezing your shoulder blades, because this is like a key element when it comes to building up the chest, right? And taking tension out of the front of the shoulder and the bicep, is you need to learn to retract and do the opposite motion. It'd be like, you can't really curl your bicep unless, in a full range of motion, unless when you're coming down, you flex your tricep, because that'll open the arm, right? So you need those two movements in synergy. Same thing with your chest. A lot of people keep their back flat and they're doing one of these, they're like, fuck, my shoulder hurts. Well, no shit, your shoulder hurts. You're moving from your shoulders, you're not moving from your chest. In order to move from your chest, you need to get a full pinch and squeeze, right? So let me show you what I'm talking about with that. So when I'm grabbing these weights and I'm moving forward, okay? Look at my shoulder blades, they're pinched tight, and I flex my abs down so I'm not getting this thoracic deviation, right? I flex my abs and I try to squeeze my chest. And then on the way back, look, pinch, pinch, pinch my shoulder blades, pinch my shoulder blades. Pause, squeeze, morning. Back, 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 pinch, 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 pause, squeeze it through. And I am pinching my shoulder blades with every single rep. Ooh. 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 Oh, fuck. Have you ever seen one of these bars before? I call it a bridge bar. I don't know what the fuck it's called, to be honest. Football bar, who knows? Anyway, there's probably some name for it out there. Anyway, I use this bar for many different reasons. I think the main one is it protects the shoulders. So as you see, there's like an angular grip on here, right? The angular grip is going to complement the natural curve of your shoulders, right? So the thing is, when you're doing your chest, it's actually healthier for your shoulders to have a slight camber to your hands, because when you go back, it naturally aligns with the way the muscle stretches. Now, if I were to have a flat grip, just like this, or a pronated grip, that actually puts my shoulders into a very risky position for benching. And that's how people get in. Actually, the number one exercise people get the most injured with is not deadlifts, it's not squats, it's fucking flat bench, right? Wouldn't you know? Because people get their egos, that come into the equation. But on top of that, it's already an unfavorable movement for your shoulder. The shoulder is not designed to take a heavy weight load with your arms being way out here. They need to be tucked more. Now, as you have a bar that's straight, it's really hard to keep your elbows tucked like that without your wrist taking that additional stress, right? So what we want to do instead is find a bar that has a camber to it, or use a machine. And if you notice some of the machines that you're pressing with, they have angled grips on them. They're not flat, they're slightly angled. And that's for a reason, right? So whenever I'm using a bar like this, I have this slight camber to it. It's going to naturally align with my shoulders, take stress out of my wrist, take stress out of the shoulder itself. So this bar also has this little curve to it. You see this little bridge? This bridge allows me to get a little deeper movement inside the chest, so my arms can actually stretch all the way backwards without the bar touching me, right? So I can get an even deeper stretch here into the pocket. And the majority of the stress, this is kind of up for contention. The majority of your development will come from a stretch, right? But also it comes from a squeeze, because if you're stretching it and you're not squeezing it, it's not gonna fucking grow either, right? But if you have full control, say like your control's perfect, a majority of that development is gonna come from a loaded stretching movement, okay? Within reason, okay? Within control. So if I can control this weight on the way down much easier and get a deeper stretch, then my muscle's gonna grow more. So that's why I use this bar. So let me show you how this works.
Oh, I, I'm,
Just like that. Way easier on your wrists and shoulders. And this bar pretty much weighs, I think it does actually weigh the same as like an Olympic bar, so it's still 45 pounds. So the weight doesn't really change much. However, the grip, the orientation, the path, everything else is different. And it's way easier on your shoulders. So if you don't have this bar, I would recommend you either doing like a cable variation with a press, keep your hands angled, doing that with a dumbbell. The key thing to keep in mind with this is elbow placement is not way out here, it's more tucked. And then you're also having a slight angle to your grip. It's not straight and pronated like this. So you could track backwards and naturally stretch that chest. Again, keeping your back flat on the bench, feet placed on the ground, and pinching the shoulder blades on the return. All right, cardio time. So I tied up that workout. I finished up that bridge bar bench. And then I did a little bit of lateral raises tied in. I haven't really did a full isolated shoulder day, probably in like fucking 3-4 weeks. You have certain body parts that accelerate faster than others. And you want to make sure that you don't get too out of proportion and balance. I think a lot of people gravitate towards their strengths and they like to focus on things that they feel like build them confidence inside the gym, make them feel strong. But you should be consistently searching for the things that you need to develop, right? I'm a firm believer when it comes to your life calling to focus on your strengths and your strong suits and double down on those. But when you're building up your physique, you need to build a fully symmetrical and aesthetically appealing look, right? Which requires you to be ruthlessly objective with looking at your physique and saying, you know what? I need to add a little bit here. I need to slow down on the shoulders and I need to focus more on maybe the triceps or maybe the legs or whatever body part you feel like is lagging behind. So make sure you're putting your focus where it belongs on the things that you need to develop. And then some things you need to regress a little bit on, like pull back. You know, you don't need to train your chest 3 days a week. I know that may be tempting, but you can't be doing that because otherwise you're going to stunt its growth. It is kind of crazy because in most settings, even in like businesses, you know, volume can help you in the early stages, right? When you're developing a skill, when you're trying to obtain something, right, that you haven't yet reached, when you're trying to go a certain distance, right? You're trying to cover a lot of ground in a short period of time, volume can be your friend, right? But there can become a point in transition where volume can actually become something that you need to scale back on, right? And something that you notice when people are starting to, you know, try to lean out, right? They're trying to get shredded, we'll say, is they do way too much cardio, right? And you need to scale back on that because what'll happen is your body will start to string out and you'll lose muscle. So that's another example of why volume can become a bad thing, even though the volume is the thing that's also helping you obtain that result. So there will become this weird point, this like chasm to where you need to be ruthlessly objective and scale back with your volume. Or even when you're trying to grow, right? You need to take rest days. You need to allow your body to rest and recover. You need more sleep, you need more food, right? But simultaneously, you need to take a day off. You need some rest. So volume can be a good or bad thing. It depends on the context. Doing a whole bunch of shitty reps isn't going to be a good thing, right? I've been doing a lot of reflecting recently. And, you know, a long time ago, when I was struggling to start getting on camera and start talking and start sharing the knowledge I've learned over the years with coaching, my first impression was an external focus, right? Was how do other people see this content? How do other people see me? It was kind of a selfish way of thinking, right? Instead of being able to share this knowledge, I put the focus on myself and what I thought other people thought of me. And in reality, you can't control that anyway. I deal with it on a daily basis being a leader. You know, it's your team's not always going to agree with you. They're not always going to like you, right? You need to come to terms with that because you can't change who you are at your core based on what other people see you as, right? That's going to drive you insane because a lot of people are operating from a place of scarcity and insecurity themselves, and they develop envy and anger towards you, maybe, and it causes them even further dissatisfaction with their own life because I'll tell you right now, a lot of people, when they get angry with you or they blame you for things, that's a lot more palatable than envy, right? Even though envy is the stem of it, envy is a hard thing to metabolize. People don't like to feel that. They don't like to feel jealousy. So what they do is they project anger, or they withdraw, you know, or simultaneously both. So you can't really shape your actions based on what other people think of you because it's going to drive you, number one, crazy. Number two, it's going to divert you from what you would truly do from an instinctual standpoint, which means a lot of people say, what do I want out of life? One of the things they'll do is they'll start to look at social media and they'll look at what other people have and they'll say, well, that's what I want, right? Well, maybe it's not. Maybe you're judging the criteria of your life based on what you see other people doing instead of what you should be doing. Take a ruthless, objective view of who you are, what skills you have, and block out the fucking noise of what other people are doing and their opinions, because you can't make life decisions based on what other people think of you. It's a good way to make sure you fail, right? Even in business. You want to go into a new industry or a new market because it sounds exciting and you see the opportunity. However, if you're not passionate about it, you're going to be fucking steamrolled by somebody who is, right? You're going to be very lackluster in your product or service because you're not passionately and intrinsically connected with it. So don't make life decisions or business decisions or health decisions, rather, based on what other people are doing and their opinions, right? A lot of people come in here when I first start coaching them and they'll put so much energy and attention on their insecurity because they're focusing on other people around them and what they look like. And they think, you know what? They're watching me, they're judging me, I feel insecure. It's a very selfish way to think, you know? If you really care about yourself, then you will learn to get rid of that toxic mentality that's preventing you from growing. Get that shit out of here. There's no room for that in your life. You can't constantly compare yourself to other people. It doesn't make any sense, you know? And you got to look at the uniqueness of who you are at your core too, because you possess very specific inclinations and skills that maybe you haven't fully crafted yet. And you have very unique circumstances in a past that surrounds you, that create these experiences that shape your thinking. And it's very unique to you. So you need to explore that. So instead of trying to find identity through what other people are doing and their opinions, you need to find identity based on what it is that's passionately and intrinsically connected to what you want. And think about your experiences, think about your skills, think about where you're at in life, and do the most you can with what you have available to you. Don't be trying to look for something else. And I think there's a quote I heard a long time ago. People get into these like whirlpools, right? Where they get bored, they get complacent, or at least they think so, because they think other people are making progress significantly faster than them. But yet again, you don't know your own timeline, right? So they start to question, what do I want, right? What do I want? And they don't know. They can't come up with an answer to that. You want to know why you don't know what you want? Because you already have it. And there's just something in your life right now that you're not feeling challenged with in that domain, because maybe you're not pushing the bar in it. Maybe you're not challenging yourself. Maybe you're not trying something new in that domain, in that field. Maybe you're just going through the routine motions. You have everything you need and want at this point in your life. So what are you doing to capitalize on that? What are you doing to push yourself in that realm? And what are you doing to grow and expand? And how are you tracking that progress? I think a lot of people at the end of their days, they think about all the things they didn't do instead of things that they did, right? Why don't you take an inventory of everything that you've got accomplished today? That's a more positive relationship with time and productivity, instead of thinking all the things that you didn't do. That list is never ending. And that list will continue to grow as you get exposure to new information and experiences, and as you begin to age over time and you become more wise, right, and aware. That list will keep growing. You can never fully finish that list. But what you can do is think about where you're at in your life right now, and do the best you can with where you're at in your life right now, and hit the gas and block out the noise. It's pretty beautiful, the access to information and technology that we have today, social media, all that stuff. But it could also be a very daunting and scary thing and demoralizing, because you think, man, there's 19-year-olds right now driving around McLarens. What the fuck am I doing, right? Again, comparing, judging, thinking you should be somewhere where you're not supposed to be. That's what's going to create that depression and anxiety you keep experiencing and putting you in that whirlpool of doubt. That's why you keep changing things. And yesterday, I talked about pivoting. And pivoting without achieving any type of success or experience in some domain is just making changes irrationally. You only pivot when circumstances demand that that's what needs to be done, assuming that you're already doing something. But if you just keep changing shit, there's no definitive answer you get out of that, right? There's no definitive result. You think about it in a science experiment, you keep changing shit, there is no outcome to that. You can't really track that, right? You can't pull any definitive information from that. You can't say this is the result or conclusion, because you keep changing variables and you don't know what's working and what's not. And that goes for health, that goes for business, that goes for anything in life. You keep changing shit all the time because you're so focused on what other people are doing and you think there's a better way. You know what the better way is? You keep doing the same shit and challenging yourself in that same domain constantly until you start seeing progress. You know, if you go for a walk one day and you're trying to lose weight and you eat one healthy meal and you drink one glass of water and you're like, why isn't it working? You have a poor relationship with time. What the fuck do you expect to happen? That's one day. How many years did it take you to get out of shape? You know? You got to have a better relationship with time. You got to set goals for your future, right? Maybe you have milestones that you you tick off, your little daily lifestyle KPIs, right? All the things in your life that, okay, I woke up this morning, I went to the gym, I ate all my meals, I drank my water, took my supplements. You're checking off the boxes that are more of what you call a lead metric, right? There's also a lag metric, which is saying the things that can't be measured immediately that take place over a longer span of time. And that's why the relationship to time is so important, because if you keep changing that, if you have a bad relationship with it, you're going to feel like your goals aren't attainable. But they are. You're just looking at time the wrong way. What makes you think that you should start something and see immediate progress from it? That's a terrible expectation. And, it's funny, my wife, Persians, right? You have this expectation, and then you have a standard. And one's good and one's bad, right? A standard for living is a fantastic thing. You need to have standards. An expectation is totally different, because you're judging your timeline based on some irrational factors that you've put together based on what you've seen other people do. And other people aren't you. So you're stuck in this fucking whirlpool of saying, why can't I see progress from it in this short ass timeline? It doesn't make any fucking sense. You're setting yourself up for failure. That's a bad system of thinking. I start something, therefore I should see great progress immediately. You have a 10,000 hour mastery point, right? That was a rough calculation of when you master something. What the fuck makes you think 1 hour, 1 day is going to make you see the results that you're looking for? Especially when you're comparing yourself to somebody or something that has seen significant progress in a short timeline. Or at least you think, because that's what's shown on social media. Only the highlights. Bad relationship at the time. You don't know what that person went through. You also don't know what they sacrificed to get there. I have coached people of extraordinary wealth in my short lifetime here. And I can tell you, a lot of them have a lot of positive qualities. But when you peek behind the hood, you pull back that curtain, and you see what they sacrificed to get there, you start to question whether that's worth it very quickly. You have zero relationships of value in your life. Your health has deteriorated. You don't find happiness in anything outside of work, so therefore you're leashed to the thing that's now killing you. And you just become restless, because the advancement that you've grown so fond of is now starting to slow down, because you've mastered a field and a craft to a point where you're not getting those huge returns on your time anymore. You're not seeing the significant progress that you've seen in your early to middle years, because you pretty much maxed out that domain. And you made a lot of sacrifices. And now, since you position yourself in such a high level of power in one area of your life, it's really hard for you to go to those weak areas and say, I'm going to work on this now. Because it makes you feel like you've spent your whole life and sacrificed so many things to obtain this level of power and status and wealth. And now you got to scale back to ground zero in an area of your life, in a domain of your life that you feel very insecure with. That is very difficult to do. Especially when you have high expectations, right? You can say, my standard of living is this way, but I expect it to happen in this short timeline. Standards, expectations, conflicting. We got to fix that shit. That's a bad system of thinking. So how do we do that? Well, you be ruthlessly objective with yourself. And you set small goals that align with a better timeline, more realistic, your lead metrics, your daily tasks that over time can compound. Like, you ask anybody who's had success with investments in their life, and they say it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. If you're sitting there trying to hit the lottery in the market, hit it at the right time, looking at all the current events, you're gonna drive yourself nuts. But the people that spend time in the market over a 15-year period of time, They're very satisfied with the returns at the end of it. The problem is your relationship to time sucks ass. So you think you should have it now. Who the fuck told you you can have it now? Who put that in your head? That ain't good. We got to fix that. And that's why I said you focus on those lead metrics every day. Small investment into your health, into your wealth, into your happiness, into your relationships. Taking mental inventories. Taking time to say some prayers or gratitudes. Investing in your spiritual wellness. You got to give little bits every day. And those things compound over time. I mean, look, for those of you who are watching this within a relative timeline of me posting it, it's already the end of August. That's crazy. What have you done this year to contribute to those weak domains in your life on a consistent basis? What have you kept in your day every single day since January 1st? Anything? Anything new? Anything that hasn't been a constant over years that you tried to grow in another area? Or has it been the same things, same routines? And then you wonder why time's flying by and you're not getting anywhere. It's because your relationship to it is terrible. You need to see time as something that is your ally. You know, if you're doing the right things, you should be growing over time. The more time you spend doing something, the better you get, right? So people hit the back years of their life and they think, oh shit, I'm old. The fuck are you talking about? You're 50? Cool. Why don't you tell that to a 90-year-old who's almost double your age? Shut the fuck up. That's a terrible way to view life. What are you saying? You know? It's you start to think if you have more time, then you'll get more things done. But that's not the case. You don't need more time. You need more action. You need more action in a shorter period of time. That's called productivity. You got to look at the density of your production, right? In a 1 day period of time, like I was talking about earlier, I don't feel like there's enough time in the day. That's because I want to get so much done, because I enjoy to do those things and I want to grow. But by no means do I feel like I'm losing anything every day when I go to bed at night. I feel like I'm excited to go to bed because I know I'm 1 day closer to all those things that I want. And that's how your relationship to time should be. You're 1 day closer. You're 1 day closer. The only time you feel like you're losing something is when that day passes and you don't do anything towards those goals that you're trying to achieve. You're like, oh shit, I lost a day. I lost time. I don't have much left. You only feel that way because you're not doing anything. You know, the cure to anxiety is action. You feel this restlessness of inaction building up because you know that you're supposed to be doing something and you're avoiding it. And it's just a mental hesitation. There really is no force that's keeping you in place except yourself, right? So change your relationship to time. Set those lead metrics in your life in the form of a routine that build and compound towards the goals that you're looking for. And just have a positive outlook. Don't be looking for what other people are doing, because it's not what you're going to be doing. No two people are the same. The ways you think, your personality, your methods of action, your experiences, your timeline, none of those things are the same. So what are you comparing exactly? Well, that's going to be it today, friends. Time sure flies when you're having fun. That'll be my 20 minutes of cardio. So I'm going to finish this up here. You know, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.